Breaking news now on Fox 61, Connecticut's news station.
Now at 6, breaking news in Vernon. Fire crews there are responding to a brush fire. Thanks for joining us tonight. I'm Brent Harden.
And I'm Bridgeport. We haven't seen rain in a while, and the dry conditions are the perfect recipe for these fires. The brush fire is happening right now off Reservoir Road. You can see how close I-84 is to it, and we're told you can see the smoke from the highway.
Fox 61's Kay Pattyfoot has been out there for a couple of hours now. So Kay, how are conditions and how are they doing fighting the fire?
Brent and Bridget, multiple fire agencies have been responding to the fire that started at 2 this afternoon on Reservoir Road. The road is blocked off behind me, and homeowners like Althea Magdigan can't get to her home because of the fire trucks blocking the road.
I've lived here in this area for 22 years, and I have never seen a fire or this kind of smoke before. This is all new. They said my house up the road is not a problem, it's just that there's trucks blocking. The trucks are out blocking the road so that I can't get through right now.
Fire officials tell us that crews will be here for several hours dealing with that fire, and you might not be able to see the smoke behind me, but where I'm standing you can smell it, and it smells very smoky, very similar to a barbecue, if you will. Live in Vernon, Kay Pattyfoot, Fox 61, Connecticut's news station.
That's a great description, Kay. Thank you very much for bringing us that update. Well, turning now to the weather, it's feeling a whole lot like summer out there today.
It really is. Meteorologist Sam Sampiri is here with a look at how long these warm temperatures will stick around. We're talking mid-80s today, right, Sam?
That's right. We got up to 86 degrees at Bradley International Airport for a little while this afternoon. The other problem, of course, with the little brush fires going on now all of a sudden is because we've gotten awfully dry since September 1st. We are 6.3 inches below the seasonal norms here. So basically 5 to 6 inches below normal across all of southern New England. Very dry to even moderate drought conditions now. Also, the other thing I'd like to point out is sort of the inverse of April or early May when there's not a lot of vegetation. A lot of times we have elevated fire risk because there's not much vegetation. But when you get into the fall, and, you know, we've had rain and all that vegetation. Well, now these leaves are falling off, and it's sort of like kindling wood. So it makes it even worse than the springtime elevated fire risk. So the brush fire risk is going to be high for quite a while. So what's ahead? Beautiful weather. This is what we have on our agenda here. Lots of sun. It'll cool off in the middle end of the week, and the next 7 to 10 days it's going to be fairly dry. Currently, we got winds out of the west-southwest, and we got a high temperature in the 80s currently. We're in the 80s. Let me get to the forecast. Big ridge of high pressure. Tonight, clear in the 50s. Tomorrow, back up into the 80s. I'll be back in a few minutes to detail the rest of the week and into next weekend, guys.
All right, Sam, thank you. Well, the first day of in-person early voting across Connecticut is just now wrapping up.
But good news is everyone has 2 full weeks to take advantage before good old Election Day voting.
Now, Connecticut voters seemed excited for this first day. Take a look here at the lines in Greenwich this morning. We talked to poll workers across the state throughout the day. They all say they saw similar booms right at 10 a.m. When voting opened up. Voters, the lines shortened a little bit, and then there's another boom in the last hour, they tell us. We will have tallies for you starting tomorrow, but we know in just the first 5 hours today, there were more than 38,000 votes cast. And tonight, Fox 61's Kaylee Collins has more on the process from outside Hartford City Hall. Kaylee.
Yeah, voters can skip the long lines. You can see just a short line here in front of Hartford City Hall and cast their official in-person vote, their early vote for the first time here in Connecticut. I did speak with a couple of Hartford residents who applauded this reform, saying it does make voting more accessible.
Just want to get my vote in so I can make my voice count.
Voters in Hartford got a head start getting to the polls as early voting officially begins in Connecticut.
I think it's very important, instead of people waiting to line up to vote, when you could vote early and avoid all that, you know.
Connecticut has become the 47th state to adopt early voting, allowing people to cast their vote when it's convenient for them. Polling locations will vary, so voters are encouraged to check in with their city or town or visit the state's election website.
this is a real important voting time. So early voting, no long lines, no excuses. People can do it on their lunch breaks. You got till Sunday, November the 3rd. So no complaining. Let's get this done.
Many have embraced the switch to early voting, citing not only the shorter lines, but also the flexibility it provides for those with busy schedules.
Because it's important to vote early. As a matter of fact, I'm headed to a national church convention on the 5th of November. So that even gives me the preference to vote early.
Regular hours will be 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. to cast a vote, with the exception of October 29th and the 31st, which offers early voting from 8 a.m. until 8 p.m.
Early voting is the way to go.
And just come on out.
Now, all of the votes that are cast early will not be counted until Election Day. That's Tuesday, November 5th. And we'll have everything you need to know about this early voting session available at our website, fox61.com. Reporting in Hartford, Kaylee Collins, Fox 61, Connecticut's news station.
All right, Kaylee, thank you. There are, of course, other options for you to cast your vote, including absentee. And take it from the state's ballot box mascot here. While the statewide question on the ballot will decide if Connecticut eventually expands absentee ballots. As of now, voters still have to apply here, and the clock is ticking. If you're in the process of getting your absentee ballot or already have one, you've got until November 4th to mail it in or submit it in a ballot box. And yes, a family member can drop it off for you.
While Connecticut, with a smaller number of electoral votes, doesn't normally get the same amount of presidential ticket visits, Tim Walz did swoop in Greenwich last night. He made a stop at Governor Lamont's personal home for a homestretch pep talk and fundraiser, of course. State Treasurer Eric Russell shared this photo with us, saying Connecticut does count to the Democratic Party's pair. He also feels Connecticut stands a better chance at working with the Harris-Walz ticket for federal funding purposes. Plus, speaking of funding, Walz did collect an estimated $1.8 million in donations during his visit to Connecticut. Developing news out of the town of Orange now. The Office of the Inspector General has just released its reports on an incident last year where an officer fired his weapon at a driver wanted in a shoplifting case. The driver was not hurt. The Inspector General ruled the officer who fired his weapon, Eric Restano, was not justified, though, in the use of force. But the ruling says Officer Restano would not be charged because of the unlikelihood of a jury conviction. It recommended instead the Police Standards Council consider revoking his police officer certification. The Orange Police Chief says Officer Restano is on administrative leave pending an internal investigation. A Bridgeport construction worker is recovering tonight after being trapped inside a building as it partially collapsed.
Yeah, Fox 61's Julia LeBlanc is on Stratford Avenue where this all happened.
City leaders tell us a construction worker was buried up to his knees in the basement of this building. When firefighters responded Monday morning, then there was a secondary collapse of the foundation with first responders still inside.
I'm praying for him. So all I can do is pray for him because he's in God's hands.
Bridgeport neighbors lining the streets of Stratford Ave Monday afternoon as firefighters work to rescue a construction worker trapped inside the basement of this building after the foundation partially collapsed twice.
His lower extremities up to his knees were buried in debris from the foundation.
Firefighters were inside during that secondary collapse, shoring up the building and digging the 35-year-old man out with their bare hands.
As we began extrication, we got a lot of struts in place to hold back the foundation and ensure safety of the patient and ourselves, of course.
Lieutenant Gregory Pryor was down there with nearly 24 others working against the clock, all as the man was standing straight up, speaking with medical professionals and waiting for relief.
Everyone came together, we developed a plan, we implemented it. When things changed, we adapted the plan, and I think the men and women of the Bridgeport Fire Department couldn't have done a better job.
After 3 hours of hard work, the moment everyone was waiting for, the man made his way out on a stretcher, miraculously without life-threatening injuries.
As serious and somber as this whole thing is, it's it's at this point a very happy ending to what could have been a very terrible tragedy.
Now, as officials work to figure out what exactly went wrong here, Mayor Joe Ganim and others are calling the actions of these firefighters heroic.
We all understand that there are inherent dangers that come along with not just being a firefighter, but a police officer as well. But the men and women, they raise their right hand and they answer the call today.
You take that oath in the beginning and you develop the right mindset, and then every day you come to work, you just do it. So whatever comes over that radio, we're going to be there.
There are now multiple agencies and departments looking into what happened here, including OSHA, city building officials, and of course the fire marshal's office. In the meantime, until they get answers, city officials say no more work will be done at this building. We are in Bridgeport. Julia LeBlanc, Fox 61, Connecticut's news station.
All right, Julia, thank you. While Western Connecticut is still trying to recover from August's catastrophic flooding, the Small Business Administration has run out of funds, and FEMA is facing limitations since Congress only passed a temporary budget bill and isn't due back till mid-November.
I appreciate the fact that we got an emergency declaration as quickly as we did, but that doesn't help if there's no money in the cookie jar down there in Washington, D.C.
Now, Governor Lamont spoke just a few hours ago in Seymour, explaining that during this wait for more federal funding, local institutions are stepping up with their own donations and client accommodations. Bankers and mortgage services have now gotten official state guidance to support those affected by the storm and provide financial relief wherever possible.
That means if you're having a hard time with a mortgage, give them a call. They'll give you a little bit of extra relief, at least up until we can get the FEMA money and the SBA money coming your way. And I appreciate it. Nobody has to do this, but that's what community banking is, looking out for the community, people looking out for people.
Now, a reminder, the deadline for residents to apply for federal disaster assistance is November 19th.